Behind the manufactured illusion of A-list perfection lies a ruthless ecosystem of psychological decay, unchecked abuse, and shattered minds. This is not tabloid gossip. This is the definitive archive of the most damaging Hollywood scandals ever buried by elite publicists. Here in the confidential files of Hollywood stars and scars, we expose the staggering price of fame, where emotional torment and hostile power dynamics are routinely rebranded as artistic genius. But what happens when an Oscar-winning icon uses the excuse of method acting to legally mail live ammunition and biological hazards to his terrified castmates? Was it dedication to the craft, or the unhinged behavior of an untouchable predator? The truth is hiding in plain sight. Behind the glitter, the scars remain. Welcome to Hollywood Stars and Scars. Number 20. Audrey Hepburn. Camera flashes illuminated an untouchable icon. Audrey Hepburn was the cinematic blueprint of elegance, a box office titan draped in Givenchy, commanding millions with a single gaze. The studios built a flawless, profitable illusion around her delicate silhouette. But the suffocating weight of a manufactured existence eventually demands payment. By the late 1960s, the relentless Hollywood machine required more of her soul than she was willing to surrender. Rejecting the destructive cycle of fame, she engineered a quiet escape, shattering the industry's grip on her image to salvage her own reality. Trading diamond-studded premieres for global crisis zones, she abandoned Hollywood's hollow promises to focus on her family and grueling humanitarian work alongside UNICEF. Industry insiders could only watch their priceless asset willingly leave, choosing the harsh truths of the world over the spotlight's artificial glow. The ultimate triumph over a ruthless industry is surviving its illusions long enough to simply walk away. Number 19. Cary Grant. A sharp silhouette against a flood of flashbulbs defined the ultimate leading man. A flawless studio creation, Cary Grant dictated box office gold, with an effortless mid-Atlantic drawl serving as the undeniable architect of Hollywood sophistication. Behind the velvet ropes and billion-dollar grosses, however, the burden of upholding a manufactured perfection was silently suffocating. By 1966, executives assumed their ageless icon would blindly continue feeding the machine. Instead, an irreversible personal decision abruptly severed his toxic connection to the limelight. The birth of his daughter became the catalyst for a total career blackout, prompting an immediate retreat from the destructive cycle of fame. Studio moguls were left staring at canceled contracts as their most profitable asset permanently vanished into quiet fatherhood, trading deafening applause for absolute obscurity. The most profound act of rebellion in a town built on mirrors is shattering the glass and walking away intact. Number 18. Frankie Muniz. A multi-million-dollar child empire was built on a charismatic teenage grin. Frankie Muniz ruled early 2000s television, a reigning prince of prime time who commanded astronomical salaries and endless red carpet adoration. But the child star machine rarely forgives those who outgrow its rigid mold. As the relentless demands of his network contracts piqued the suffocating pressure of a heavily scrutinized existence, forced a radical departure. Rather than succumb to the destructive cycle of early fame, he orchestrated an absolute media blackout. Trading studio sound stages for the dangerous asphalt of professional racing circuits, he completely reinvented his existence. Industry insiders watched in disbelief as the former A-lister pivoted, entirely investing his television fortune into a quiet life, managing an olive oil business and touring as an indie musician. True survival in this industry sometimes means severing the golden handcuffs to forge an entirely unrecognizable reality. Number 17. Rick Moranis. A blockbuster titan defined the golden era of 1980s cinematic comedy. Rick Moranis was an undisputed studio heavyweight commanding massive box office returns while masking his private life behind an endlessly bankable, endearing on-screen persona. But the unrelenting machinery of Hollywood makes no exceptions for personal devastation. By 1997, a profound private tragedy shattered his carefully maintained public existence, forcing an impossible choice between corporate demands and profound grief. Following the loss of his wife, the crushing reality of raising 2 children alone eclipsed any multi-million-dollar contract. Industry insiders watched in stunned silence as he orchestrated a complete, unceremonious exit from the spotlight, abandoning a lucrative empire to embrace the quiet anonymity of full-time fatherhood. The ultimate sacrifice in a town addicted to illusion is trading a priceless legacy to protect the fragile reality of a grieving family. Number 16. Gene Hackman. Uncompromising intensity defined one of cinema's most formidable heavyweights. Gene Hackman dominated the silver screen for decades, a legendary actor whose sheer gravitas commanded massive paychecks and universal critical reverence. Studios built entire promotional campaigns around his rugged, magnetic authority. Yet the relentless glare of the Hollywood apparatus eventually strips away the very humanity that fuels such pristine performances. By 2004, the suffocating demands of public life had completely eroded his tolerance for the industry's manufactured circus. Choosing to sever his connection to the destructive cycle of stardom, he orchestrated a stunningly permanent withdrawal to reclaim his fundamental privacy. Leaving lucrative blockbuster offers decaying on executives' desks, the cinematic titan walked away entirely, trading blinding premiere lights for the absolute isolation of a novelist's desk. The ultimate power move in a city obsessed with endless visibility is forcing them to watch you erase yourself completely. Number 15. Mara Wilson. A billion-dollar studio system once rested effortlessly on the shoulders of an innocent child. Earning massive global acclaim, this pint-sized powerhouse dominated the box office, securing astronomical profits for industry executives. But beneath the relentless paparazzi flashbulbs and pristine red carpet branding, the psychological toll of an industrialized childhood was silently compounding. By her early teenage years, the suffocating demands of the spotlight collided with a desperate need for mental preservation. Refusing to become another devastating tabloid casualty, she executed a definitive exit strategy, dismantling her meticulously crafted public persona before it could consume her. Industry insiders watched a cinematic prodigy simply walk away, trading a destructive cycle of fame for a quiet, unrecognizable reality. Sacrificing future fortunes, she reclaimed her autonomy, pivoting completely to prioritize personal growth and forge a grounded existence as a writer. The absolute ultimate rebellion against a Hollywood machine that feeds on youth is possessing the strength to quietly rewrite your own ending. Number 14. Jack Gleeson. Global domination arrived, wearing a gilded crown and a sadistic smirk. Jack Gleeson anchored the biggest fantasy television empire in history, translating unparalleled raw talent into an iconic villain that captivated millions. The industry demanded he ride this astronomical momentum straight into an endless sequence of blockbuster paychecks. However, the psychological tax of inhabiting a universally despised antagonist soon manifested into a suffocating reality. Finding himself repelled by the intense scrutiny of global celebrity culture, he orchestrated a shockingly abrupt departure from the Hollywood machine. At the absolute apex of his marketability, he walked away, completely dismantling his formidable acting career to pursue quiet academic sanctuary, studying theology and philosophy at Trinity College, Dublin. Pushing aside deafening fan mania and relentless media demands, he willingly traded notoriety for anonymous lecture halls. Sometimes the only way to survive the crushing weight of a monumental legacy is to let it die. Number 13. Freddie Prinze Jr. A pristine, undeniably bankable image crowned the undisputed king of millennial teen cinema. Freddie Prinze Jr. commanded late 90s box offices, a heavily packaged heartthrob generating massive studio wealth with an effortless signature charm. Millions adored the glossy magazine covers, oblivious to the suffocating limitations of playing a perpetually perfect leading man. Eventually, the relentlessly shallow Hollywood apparatus forced a critical evaluation of his own longevity. Rejecting the destructive cycle of superficial fame, he orchestrated a quiet but absolute professional pivot. Leaving lucrative romantic comedy scripts gathering dust, he completely dismantled his teenage idol status to forge an entirely unrecognizable path. The industry watched a guaranteed blockbuster draw trade flashing red carpets for the unseen world of voice acting, writing culinary cookbooks, and producing wrestling content for the WWE. Reclaiming control over his own narrative required killing the very heartthrob persona that made him famous. Number 12. Dylan Sprouse. An entire cable television monopoly was once fueled by a carefully packaged teenage sensation. Dylan Sprouse sat at the absolute zenith of broadcasting dominance, a highly monetized corporate asset generating unprecedented studio wealth through pristine sitcom perfection. However, surviving the machinery of youth stardom frequently demands severing the exact contracts defining your existence. As corporate expectations intensified, the flawless illusion of manufactured adolescence fractured under the crushing pressure of relentless scrutiny. Refusing to let his identity be completely devoured by a profitable franchise, he executed a stunningly decisive professional blackout. Executives were paralyzed when this guaranteed ratings magnet abandoned an undeniable fortune to vanish into university halls, pivoting radically to study video game design. Systematically destroying his pristine branding, he permanently traded deafening applause for the gritty labor of opening his own meadery. The ultimate retaliation against an empire that purchases your childhood is utilizing their money to construct a reality they cannot control. Number 11. Daniel Day-Lewis. Unparalleled devotion characterized the most revered method actor of a generation. Daniel Day-Lewis was an absolute cinematic sovereign, a commanding titan, generating universal awe and breathless studio anticipation with every rare appearance. He elevated acting into a sacred, almost dangerous obsession. Yet the psychological toll of completely submerging his identity into agonizingly intense roles exacted a massive, invisible debt. By 2017, the suffocating internal demands of a relentless artistic process finally eclipsed the allure of global adulation. Refusing to let a destructive cycle of expectations consume him, he issued an abrupt, chillingly final statement, declaring his absolute retirement. Industry executives watched in stunned silence as their most prestigious asset permanently severed ties with the Hollywood apparatus. Abandoning decades of artistic supremacy, he chose a secluded, peaceful existence far beyond the reach of flashing paparazzi lenses. The true mastery of any craft is recognizing exactly when the performance must end to save the man behind the mask. A camera lens does not merely capture an image. It actively consumes the identity on the other side. The true cost of sustaining a profitable illusion is the quiet, systematic erasure of the human being beneath it. The human psyche is fundamentally not equipped to survive relentless, industrialized observation. When the boundary between a manufactured persona and genuine reality fractures, the mind triggers a primal defense mechanism: absolute withdrawal. Recognizing this breaking point is never a surrender. It is a critical act of psychological preservation against a system designed to extract sanity. But walking away requires a door that is unlocked. Sometimes the industry refuses to let its investments simply disappear. Number 10. Shirley Temple. A global empire was constructed upon perfectly engineered dimples and golden curls. Dominating the box office, this unprecedented child phenomenon generated historic studio wealth, becoming an absolute cornerstone of the Hollywood apparatus. Yet the industrial star-making machine is notoriously ruthless to prodigies who dare to age. By 22, the suffocating constraints of a heavily manufactured persona clashed violently with her need for genuine intellectual substance. Refusing to let a fading cinematic image dictate her adult existence, she executed a fiercely definitive exit. Industry moguls were paralyzed as their former billion-dollar asset permanently severed her studio ties. Trading meticulously lit sound stages for the relentless arena of international politics, she completely reinvented her reality, cementing a formidable legacy as a distinguished diplomat. True power in a town built on infantile illusions is growing up and walking out. Decades later, another cinematic prodigy would recognize those exact warning signs, abruptly dismantling her own blockbuster childhood to salvage her mental health. Number 9. Bridget Fonda. A cherubic smile and undeniable screen presence constructed a staggering 1990s box office legacy. Mara Wilson reigned as the undisputed darling of family cinema, generating massive studio profits through a meticulously packaged innocence that captivated audiences worldwide. But the industrial machinery of child stardom notoriously neglects the fragile psychology of its lucrative assets. By her teenage years, the suffocating demands of relentless media scrutiny ignited a profound internal crisis. Refusing to succumb to a destructive cycle of early fame, she orchestrated a definitive exit to salvage her mental health. Executives watched in disbelief as their guaranteed ticket seller deliberately vanished from the paparazzi lenses, abandoning studio contracts to forge a grounded reality as a published writer. True survival against the Hollywood apparatus requires the absolute courage to dismantle the exact image they forced you to become. By 2002, a celebrated leading lady of cinematic royalty would echo this silent rebellion, discarding her A-list trajectory to vanish into an aggressively guarded private family life. Number 8. Steven Seagal. Lethal precision and stoic bravado defined the ultimate 1990s action juggernaut. Steven Seagal commanded absolute box office supremacy a martial arts powerhouse, generating immense studio wealth with a seemingly unbreakable on-screen persona. However, the formidable illusion of invincibility eventually fractures under the crushing weight of an evolving industry and shifting public appetites. As his once dominant Hollywood career inevitably began to fade, the relentless machinery of blockbuster cinema rapidly moved on without him. Unwilling to quietly accept a forgotten legacy relegated to straight-to-video obscurity, he orchestrated an extraordinarily bizarre professional pivot. He completely abandoned traditional entertainment, reinventing his public existence by deeply embedding himself into the turbulent, highly scrutinized realm of international diplomacy and global politics. The ultimate performance in a city completely obsessed with fleeting glory is convincing the world you are a statesman the exact moment the studios stop calling. Number 7. Phoebe Cates. An intoxicating allure crowned the definitive dream girl of the 1980s. Phoebe Cates dominated the decade, an undeniable cinematic obsession heavily packaged by studios to generate massive box office revenue. Audiences worshipped her pristine red carpet appearances, oblivious to the suffocating limitations of playing a perpetually flawless ingenue. However, the relentless Hollywood machine demands total submission. By the mid-1990s, the intense pressure of maintaining a manufactured persona clashed violently with her profound desire for a grounded existence. Refusing to let an unforgiving industry dictate her personal evolution, she orchestrated an incredibly swift professional blackout. Executives watched their lucrative asset intentionally vanish from paparazzi lenses, permanently abandoning her A-list trajectory to embrace the intensely private reality of motherhood. Trading highly publicized movie premieres for the quiet autonomy of running a New York boutique, she methodically erased her own stardom. The ultimate rebellion against a town that weaponizes youth is simply taking yours and walking out the door. Number 6. Jonathan Taylor Thomas. A relentless frenzy of flashing cameras tracked the ultimate 1990s teenage heartthrob. Jonathan Taylor Thomas reigned supreme over primetime television, generating an absolute fortune through his perfectly packaged charm. Yet the suffocating constraints of being a highly commodified adolescent eventually provoked a radical breaking point. By 1998, at the absolute zenith of his commercial marketability, the intense pressure of a manufactured existence collided with a desperate need for authentic intellectual growth. Refusing to be consumed by the destructive cycle of fame, he orchestrated a shockingly abrupt departure. Executives scrambled as their guaranteed star deliberately vanished from the Hollywood apparatus, abandoning lucrative contracts to pursue rigorous academic sanctuary at Harvard and Columbia. The most profound victory against a machine that commodifies youth is intellectually outgrowing the very system designed to trap you. Soon after, the crushing weight of a perfect image cracking under pressure would force another cinematic prodigy to permanently abandon her A-list trajectory. Number 5. Amanda Bynes. Unmatched comedic timing and magnetic screen presence built a millennial television empire. Amanda Bynes operated as a network powerhouse, driving astronomical ratings and securing massive studio wealth with her pristine teen queen branding. Yet the psychological burden of a heavily scrutinized childhood inevitably exacted a devastating toll. By the early 2000s, relentless paparazzi flashes and intense media pressure collided with severe personal crises, completely fracturing her meticulously manufactured public image. Unwilling to be consumed by a destructive cycle of fame, her Hollywood trajectory abruptly halted. Industry insiders watched as a guaranteed box office draw vanished into a complicated public hiatus. Scrapping her A-list destiny, she abandoned the entertainment apparatus entirely, pivoting toward a quiet, unrecognizable reality to focus on mental preservation while preparing for a new career as a nail technician. The absolute cost of carrying an entire network on your shoulders is watching your own identity collapse underneath it. Number 4. Angus T. Jones. A staggering television fortune was built on the effortless comedic timing of a child prodigy. Angus T. Jones anchored a historic primetime juggernaut, earning unprecedented episodic salaries while studios heavily merchandised his innocent on-screen persona. Yet the psychological dissonance of growing up inside a highly controversial, adult-oriented sitcom eventually forced a massive ideological collision. By 2012, the manufactured facade violently shattered when a profound religious awakening clashed with the very scripts making him a millionaire. Refusing to compromise his newfound faith, he unleashed a highly publicized condemnation of the empire that built him, triggering an immediate PR disaster. Executives were stunned as their highest-paid adolescent star deliberately torched his lucrative contracts, walking away from millions to align his reality with his spiritual convictions. Trading blinding studio lights for a completely unrecognizable private life, he definitively abandoned the Hollywood machine. The ultimate act of defiance in a profoundly secular industry is sacrificing a guaranteed fortune to save your own soul. Number 3. Nikki Blonsky. Overnight phenomenon status was abruptly cemented by a single explosive musical blockbuster. Nikki Blonsky secured absolute stardom as the irrepressible breakout lead of Hairspray, dominating red carpets and generating massive critical acclaim with a flawless Cinderella narrative. Yet Hollywood's superficial appetite for unconventional leading ladies is notoriously fleeting. Despite delivering an undeniable box office triumph, the brutal reality of a rigidly exclusionary studio system quickly suffocated her momentum. Phone calls from powerful executives inexplicably stopped. Highly anticipated casting offers dried up, and the relentless PR machine rapidly shifted its focus. Unwilling to remain trapped in the agonizing limbo of a stalled Hollywood trajectory, she executed a profoundly humbling professional pivot. Abandoning the toxic waiting game, she completely reinvented her reality by stepping behind the scenes to work as a licensed hair and makeup artist. The cruelest illusion of a sudden breakthrough is realizing the studios only ever intended to invite you to the party once. Number 2. Michael Schoeffling. A brooding, impossibly perfect heartthrob materialized as the absolute blueprint for 1980s teenage romance. Michael Schoeffling dominated the cultural zeitgeist, an effortlessly magnetic leading man who drove undeniable box office success and plastered magazine covers. Studios heavily banked on his smoldering on-screen persona, expecting him to permanently embody this flawless fantasy. Yet the relentless Hollywood apparatus frequently strips the humanity from its most profitable commodities, demanding endless replication of a single, lucrative illusion. By the early 1990s, the suffocating constraints of a heavily manufactured industry clashed with his profound desire for an authentic existence. Executing an incredibly precise vanishing act, he permanently severed all studio ties. He deliberately traded blinding premieres for the tactile, quiet labor of professional carpentry and custom furniture design. Industry moguls were utterly baffled as a guaranteed star simply evaporated into absolute obscurity. The rarest achievement in a city addicted to artificial glamour is building a solid reality with your own two hands. Number 1. Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen. A twin billion-dollar empire was aggressively marketed before they could even form sentences. Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen dominated global media, transforming their adolescence into a massively lucrative cinematic franchise that fueled an entire studio system. However, the suffocating reality of being heavily commodified since infancy inevitably demanded a radical severing from the Hollywood apparatus. Refusing to remain permanent fixtures in an unforgiving spotlight, they executed a meticulously calculated professional blackout. Abandoning highly scrutinized acting careers, the sisters completely dismantled their pristine teen queen image to forge an entirely unrecognizable path. Plunging into the fiercely private, cutthroat realm of luxury design, they silenced relentless media speculation by building the Row into a highly respected fashion powerhouse. The ultimate revenge against an industry that packages your youth is weaponizing their money to buy your absolute privacy. Soon, another historic prime-time child prodigy would deliberately torch his million-dollar sitcom contracts following a profound religious awakening. Fame demands a brutal currency, human fragility. Behind the manufactured glamour lies a quiet, desperate plea for help, drowned out by deafening applause. True courage isn't surviving this toxic ecosystem. It's walking away before the spotlight incinerates your sanity. As we close this archive of Hollywood stars and scars, recognize that the darkest Hollywood scandals aren't front-page headlines. They're the silent, unseen moments when a human soul completely shatters under the crushing weight of our adoration. When the velvet ropes drop and the cameras power down, the golden illusion fractures. This industry isn't built on talent. It's an unforgiving vault designed to protect the powerful and bury the vulnerable in absolute silence. The most damaging Hollywood scandals are never accidents. They are meticulously orchestrated cover-ups. Subscribe to Hollywood Stars and Scars to unseal our next classified dossier. Strip away the media spin and expose the chilling reality they desperately want forgotten. The flashbulbs capture the stars, but time always reveals the scars.